Hey YouTube, welcome back to my channel. In today's video, I'm going to be showing y'all how I did these two feed-in braids on myself, a DIY hairstyle, quick and easy. I'm starting off with the braiding hair. I like to use the Expressions braiding hair. I believe I use one pack and maybe a little bit from another pack, so like 2 packs of the braiding hair. And I'm starting off by sectioning in the bigger sections first. And then I'm going to gradually get smaller so that I can start off with a smaller piece and then go to the larger pieces. Because I'm doing it on myself, I do recommend prepping out the braiding hair versus pulling. That way it's easier because you can't really see what you're doing. If you want your braid to be super thick, then you just want to prep out more of the bigger pieces. I didn't want mine necessarily that thick, but not super thin either. So I just kind of prepped one row of the bigger pieces and then got smaller every time I went up to the next row. Now to prep my hair, I had my hair in these braids, so I'm just taking out the braids. And then I'm going to go through with my blow dry brush to make sure that it's as straight as possible. You don't necessarily have to press your hair for this style. You can if you want it to look, more sleek. But my hair is relaxed. But when I do these on my natural hair clients, I don't ever press the hair out. I just make sure it's blow dry as straight as I can get it. I'm using my Sleek Care Braid Gel for the mold. If you would like to purchase, it will be down in my YouTube store. Or you can click the link in the description box. I'm starting off with a middle part, and I just section it down the middle as neat as I can get it, and then I put in 2 ponytails to give it some tension. Then I'm going to apply my gel down the center, and then I'm going to clean up the part. And I'm also using a small handheld mirror so that I can see the back of my head. But I basically just take the comb, and I like to feel like where my part is. You can feel like the coldness of the tail end of the comb, and I can feel it on my scalp. So I just take that and I go little by little and go straight back to the back of my head. And then I'm using a mirror, the small mirror and also the big mirror at my station to help me clean it up. And y'all, this was the best that I could get it. I was tired of trying, so I'm like, we just gonna go with it. Now I'm going to go in with my gel and I'm applying that to the edges of the section, and then I'm going to part out a small section for me to start the braid, and then I'm going to go within that big section and then apply more gel and then sleek it down. This part is very important because it's going to help you once you start to braid. You're not going to have to worry about sleeking or trying to comb and make sure everything gets sleeked down. It will already be sleeked down, so it'll be much easier to just braid. And if your hair is on the thicker side, then you want to make sure you're applying enough gel so that the entire section is coated and you can get a nice even mold. And as you can see, I'm combing it down straight, and then I'm taking the back of the comb and just smoothing it down. When I'm doing these braids on my clients, I am intentional about stitch braiding, but doing them on myself, I'm basically just grabbing whatever hair I could grab at that point. So I'm starting off with that small section in the front and braiding it a couple times. Then I'm going to kind of stitch, but it's not going to really be a stitch. It's just me trying to grab any type of hair. And as you can see, I don't have my nails on. So, well, my pinky nails on. So it's kind of hard for me to actually stitch anything. Also, when doing them on myself, I do try to get a good, grip at first when I first start braiding before I start adding in the braiding hair. So I'm braiding down, a couple times, and then I'm going to start adding the braiding hair, starting to add in those small pieces, and then gradually get bigger once I go down. And I'm adding in the braiding hair the same way I would do any other braid style, adding a piece in between my pointer and my thumb finger, and then continuing to braid. And I'm making sure I'm keeping a firm grip so that my braids don't get looser. And I'm making sure I'm looking in the mirror to make sure that it actually looks decent before I keep braiding. Of course, if you're doing it on yourself, it's not going to look perfect, but I at least be wanting it to look somewhat decent. So I'm always making sure I'm looking in the mirror and then using the gel to also blend my natural hair in with the braiding hair. And I will also keep in mind that if you want your braids to be much thicker than mine's are, just keep in mind that you actually have to grip all of that while trying to grip your hair as well. once I get to the end of the braid, I braid as far as I can go with my arm being like that, and then I switch the braid over so that I can braid underhand. And I'm adding in bigger size pieces to make the braid a little bit thicker as I continue to braid down. And of course, you can add in hair to make them as long as you want them. For the other side, I'm repeating the same process. Now, for some reason, this side I always have a hard time starting off the braid, so I did have to take a couple tries to actually get it the way I wanted it. But I'm making sure I'm molding it down super good and applying gel within the inside of the bigger section and then molding it down. And I also like to check in the mirror just to make sure that the two braids are even as far as position and also thickness. Y'all, when I say this braid gave me a hard time, so if you're like me and struggle with one side over the other side, don't give up. Just, take a breath, keep, making sure it's sectioned right and it's molded down, and then just, take your time because you're doing it on yourself so you can't see, and it's going to be harder than doing it on someone else. So a trick that I do is to use some of the gel and apply it to my roots, and then I'm gonna take my comb and comb it and then smooth it down like into the braid. This will also help with if your grip isn't as tight when you're braiding. It will help to still give it that polished look. Now I'm just going in and applying the mousse and also the spritz, and then I'm gonna sit under the dryer for 10 to 12 minutes on medium heat. Then after that, I'm gonna spray it with some oil sheen to give it a shine. And this is the finished look. Make sure y'all like, comment, and subscribe. Follow me on all of my social medias at Sweet I Can. And I will catch y'all in the next video.